right. So I guess this is welcome to a series of mini podcasts we're doing. We being Glacier Flower, if you haven't seen, but this is
Yep.
Glacier Flower on Glacier Flower, which is us uh, pretentiously, self-righteously, self-indulgently going through our current three albums and now with 6 months away from the release of our third one,
Geez, 6 months.
basically just to kind of reflect on the quality of them and all of that and just see how we feel about them now.
So this episode we're gonna just do our first debut. Well, I don't think you can have more than one debut. Our debut album, self-titled Glacier Flower, released August 31st, 2019.
That is right, yeah.
I think I'd know when my own album was released. Thanks, August.
But yes, I'm August, and with me is Mason. If you
That's
didn't,
me. That
if you,
is that's my name.
if you didn't know who was who in the band, but
Now you do.
now
If
you
you're
do.
watching this.
Yeah.
If you're not,
So
then watch this.
yeah. So this first album, I guess we should explain the backstory of the band in brief and where we in particular come from. So the Glacier Flower as a project kind of had its root back in 2017. Not the Glacier Flower itself, but more the idea of Mason and I wanting to do music together.
Mm.
So we got really like invested in this idea back then. Had a terrible, horrible failed attempt with like this shitty comedy rock band.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads us to December of 2018, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yep. We. I, I'm gonna back up just a little bit. We abandoned that comedy rock thing. We wanted to do a more psychedelic rock album. We started work on it, and the first song for that album was the last song on the album Glacier Flower. And then when in the production of that, we realized it was more ambient. And then we're just like, you know what? We're just an ambient band now.
Yeah.
And that was around December of 2018.
Yeah.
And from there, we just worked on an album. We really had no idea where we were gonna go with
It,
this
it,
album, but yeah.
yeah. It was really just this kind of, because I know with your cousin, you had a like just the tiniest bit of previous musical experience, and you had retro sin, which
Yeah.
uh,
Which
both of these projects are nothing close to how Glacier Flower ended up because they're much more kind of dance centric. Would you say?
yeah, I'd say that. And it's just how they were produced was completely different. A lot of those albums were we used loops, and in Glacier Flower and all the music we make now, there's like absolutely none of that. It's all, you know, there's samples and stuff, but it's all mostly played or whatever.
It's all stuff we put some degree of ourselves into, regardless of if
Yeah.
it's sampled. Like we rarely, although on this first album, I guess there's an exception, we won't just take something and put it in the album. Now we'll like slow it down or pitch shift it or
Yeah, we'll make it sound different so it's not completely obvious it's a sample. But yeah.
that and that's kind of, I guess, where in my musical background is that I had none. I
Yep.
I played a little guitar before that. I was never very good. But obviously that basically didn't matter because guitar is obviously not a factor on this album. Point being, this project really started out from two people who just didn't know where they were going with this.
Oh, I think honestly, I don't even think we knew what kind of like genre we were going for until like 5 songs were made. And
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is kind of an ambient album.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of what really influenced us and what we were listening to around the time, I I remember we were both really getting into Tame Impala, and there was a lot of Pink Floyd that went into that.
I don't really think personally I was influenced. I mean, obviously by everyone you said, but I mean, realistically, there were not a whole lot of influences on this album. We just kind of made it.
It was really just creativity at its most destructive, is I think how I'd phrase it.
Most destructive.
We have Neon Cruise, which starts up the album.
Yeah, Neon Cruise. I don't know. I think this is a fine opener. Like it. If any song on the album had to be an opener, it would be this song. But I don't really think it sounds a lot like the rest of the album, which I think,
Yeah,
which is why I think it's just an okay opener. Like it's not a terrible song. It just I don't know.
it's weird listening back to it because it's like this distinctly like retro synth track, kind of 80s inspired. And actually, I think it might have even been a little bit on my part influence wise. I was listening to a lot of the Drive soundtrack, the Nicholas Winding Refn film,
Mm.
and that kind of throwbacky kind of synthy stuff might have really been a bit of why that title came to mind, and why that was associated with this track. But
That's fair. I mean, another reason we named it that is because
oh yeah, this is a
uh,
great story.
we were running out of we. I mean, not running out of names. We just had no idea what to call them. So we went. I don't know why we were here, but we went to this like cruise site or something, and there was two names that were like right by each other. It was I think Neon Nights and Urban Cruise or something. And we're like, haha, I think it'd be hilarious if we like flipped the names.
Yeah.
And then we just named 2 songs.
Oh god, we were looking up like things to do in California or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
It
It
was
was
I,
it
I
was
have
so
no
stupid.
idea why we got there, but
Not
I
complaining.
yeah, and I guess because this is the first song, we should address something else about the album that's easy to notice, being the cover art and where that came from.
Yeah, that was a that I mean that whole kind of street and area is kind of like significant not only in like Glacier Flower terms but just like our life. So we were like on a walk around the time the this was created, and I just looked over between these like two like in store. I think are there storage
Yeah,
buildings?
I
I
think
think.
there's storage facilities.
And I was just and it was like the sun was setting. I was just like, hey, that's a cool pic. And then we just took the pic and that was the album cover. Before, like, we were just like, yeah, this is the album cover. We didn't even like try to choose another one or make one. We just made it the
Yeah,
album cover.
and there was some like text on it at one point that just said Glacier Flower, but it looked kind of just white, plain, like Arial text,
Yeah,
all caps, and we just deleted that because it didn't look good.
no, I like the album cover for this album. I think it kind of fits pretty well,
No, I think the
personally.
colors really pop. That
Yeah.
like orange and blue is really
Hmm.
nice. And yeah, of course, it was taken in December, right in this very significant location, right when the two of us were, yeah, really getting this band idea in motion.
Move on to our next song, Afterglow. I probably told you this, but like I started this song because we were listening to like Tame Impala and MGMT, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try to make a song like that, and it sounds
Yeah,
absolutely nothing like it. And I'll be completely honest here, it's between this song and Fever Dream are like tied for like my least favorite song we've ever released.
No, it's not particularly good.
It's really
It's
not.
it's kind of, yeah, just this weird like bouncy melody that is,
It,
it just sounds really tacky, I
and
think.
it and the thing is the two melodies going on aren't even like in the same time signature or something. They're just like off in their own worlds
Yeah,
doing
so we've
whatever.
got a polyrhythm on this song.
Yeah.
I mean, not a good polyrhythm, but
And another interesting fact is like there's like this buzzing in the background and we were just like listening to this song and August's neighbor was out mowing and we just recorded him mowing over the song.
we just recorded this neighbor mowing because it was like this funny addition. It's kind of a joke that's only in the album for us.
I don't know. I think it was funny.
No, I think that's the most interesting part about the song, honestly, that
Probably.
story.
All right, that's it. This song's like a minute long. Let's
Yeah.
just move on to our longest song on the album, Paper Squares.
This song has a very interesting creation story because it was like one day after high school, we were both just at my house for like 2 hours straight, and we were just like, we're gonna make this like big epic song.
I mean, I don't know why we decided to do this, but it's like kind of like represents like LSD. Like I mean, I literally we had the name Paper Squares, which like, LSD. Haha. And it
Funny, edgy teenage kids
yeah,
like, oh yeah, drugs, man.
I don't know. It's just we were at that time where like drug names sound like really cool, like Afterglow and
Yeah,
Paper Squares.
Afterglow is another really kind of embarrassing side effect of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. I mean, I honestly I do like Paper Squares, the title and the song itself.
yeah.
It was a lot better than I remember it being. To be completely honest, it's not a terrible song. I remember at one point you just hated that Tom York sample and you were just like, I don't know why I thought that was cool. I don't honestly I don't think it's too bad.
I listened, yeah, because I was listening to this week as well. And I I was like, that wasn't the worst creative decision ever, but it's also a song that goes just all over the place.
Yeah, there's
I,
like
yeah.
yeah,
That's there's kind of this fun, and that's kind of just a product of us just sitting down for like 2 or 3 hours and just making this big epic thing.
right.
And I remember at one point we had this music video planned for this song
Oh, I
where the
forgot about
where
that.
the idea was going to be it would open up with us like walking forward at the camera, and then when the music goes like wow in that first 30 seconds, I was going to like speed the footage up and have
Oh yeah,
us
yeah, yeah.
running backwards. And that's really the only as far as we ever got with that music video idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we talked about it that one day and that was literally it. We never brought it up again.
But I remember that because I thought that one shot and like syncing up our steps to the music was supposed to be the idea, but it obviously didn't happen.
Could have been interesting, I guess.
Yeah, we just needed more ideas. And knowing us, we would have literally just filmed it in my backyard. I think that was actually the plan. We were going to film it on my deck.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it. So I mean, I guess in one sense, I'm glad we didn't do it, but
Yeah, same.
and then there's of course the Tom York sample, which I just had the Suspiria soundtrack on vinyl, and there was like this drum break we thought was pretty cool sounding, so we just blatantly stole it and put it in the song.
Yeah, really. Like that's I think the only sample where we didn't like mix it well into the mix. It just stands out. Like
And I remember I messaged Tom York on Twitter randomly like, "Hey, can we sample this song?"
yeah, and
As
he never
he never
responded.
replied to us. Yeah.
Figured he wouldn't.
No, I mean, you would have to figure he doesn't have time for
No.
stupid
What is
like
this dumbass 16-year-old doing on my feed?
And I guess while we're here, let's sprinkle in some more trivia where the name Glacier Flower came from.
Bruh. We
Uh,
were looking at names and we couldn't think of any. So we decided to go go to a random name generator. And like the first name that popped up was like Glacier Flower. And we're like, cool,
cool.
let's use it.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would be comfortable admitting that, but like it's just we just find it so stupid.
It's stupid, but it's funny, you know.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's a terrible name.
No, I don't think it's got a musicality to it that I think is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, that takes us into the next song, I guess. So this is kind of our earliest use of field recordings and
Yeah.
going out and
I'll just come out here and say this song is kind of cozy. Like it's kind of comforting with the rain and then just kind of like the really um quiet or voices. Obviously us talking, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's just I don't know. I don't think this song is mixed pretty well, I
yeah,
think. And it's just I don't know. I think it's the beginning of what kind of atmospheres that we would, make on like 20 and in 21 really. But
yeah.
yeah, I like it.
The only thing I really wish we had done different is I'm not a big fan of like the piano hits, the boom,
Bum
boom,
bum
boom.
bum.
They're a
Yeah,
little too jarring, I
a
think.
little bit. Because that would be a pretty chill song without them. That's yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot about this song either. I like
I
it. Um,
I like it, sounds nice.
it's definitely a I don't know. Like between this song and then the next song, it's like the next song just kind of just jumps in and it's kind of like almost is I guess jarring or like it just gets loud. This is just such a quiet song,
Oh
and the
yeah.
next one it's just like the loudest song on the album. And I think it's kind of funny how we structured it that way. Like it
Yeah.
gets really quiet at the end of a late spring, and then it's just like, "Bwah."
Yeah, then we get Fog Sirens, which is a track that was made on FL Studios.
I think it's the only track on this album that wasn't recorded on my phone.
It's the only one that wasn't, and I think it's the only one where we've ever used FL Studios. It's got this weird kind of jittery, really slowed down sound to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It honestly, in some ways, it kind of reminds me of Cracking Bones, like an early version of like that.
It's kind of this similar emotional tone of these songs that are very much kind of just about this really heavy instrumental,
Yeah,
really bass heavy also,
right.
kind of just collapse in the album, kind of in terms of the rising and falling tension, where this is just taking all of the energy and just
You're putting it all in there, and I kind of like how we structured it too. Like it kind of turns into this like weird like arpeggiated synth where it kind of feels like you're kind of like anxious or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah, that synth at the end is very interesting. I mean, I think really my biggest problem with this song, as with a lot of these earlier tracks, I think, is that it's just too short.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I that also applies to a late spring,
Right. I do wish that song was longer.
like twice or three times its length. I think it
Yeah.
would have been just fine. And I think that speaks to us as like just early creators where we were not terribly confident in our vision as
No,
like ambient
right.
musicians.
And I think another problem is we just had so many different ideas and we just didn't know like I don't know how to properly structure a song
Yeah.
because it's like even like with like you were going back with paper squares how it just is all over the place and there's like it rarely jumps back to earlier synths or melodies or whatever and it's just we had too many ideas, I think, for this album.
That's a very good summation of it. Quite honestly, it's just a lot of ideas that don't necessarily fit together. Speaking of, let's talk about reflections.
Before Neon Cruise existed, this was going to be the opener, and I'm really glad it's not because it's the most boring song on this album. There's like nothing that happens.
And it's also notably a song with two versions of it because this was our
First single? No,
second
second
single.
single, yeah. The End of was our first one.
Really, the problem with us releasing singles for this album was that our ideas were just moving forward at such a constant rate that like the single wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, here's the single version, here's the album version. It was like, here's the single version, here's another version, here's another version, here's another version,
Yeah.
here's the album version. Like the songs went through so many minor tweaks and changes that they got mangled.
And another notable thing about this song is it starts out with a like spoken word, and it's of my voice, which I always found cringy. I re-listened to it earlier, and like it still is. It's not terrible though. Like I don't really care anymore. But this song is kind of like about a memory that you have. Like if you're hanging out with friends and you were doing something, and you really are like nostalgic for it, and you want to relive that memory exactly how it was, and you like try, and it never is like the same. There's always something
Yeah,
different about it.
it was something we were discussing on the bus at
Yep.
because we would discuss a lot of this album waiting for the bus to pick us up,
Fun fact: the End of single cover is literally us standing at the bus stop taking a picture of a building across the street.
which was, yeah, like demolished before we even released the single.
Yup.
It was a gas station across the street that got torn down before we made that single.
Rest in peace, gas station.
And the single cover for this song, notably, also is just your back steps.
Yeah, and with a very poor filter on it. I do not like how the filter we chose on this.
It looks a little dumb.
Yep.
But yeah, reflections. I kind of think the deep synthy bass stuff is a little interesting, but a lot of it is just not a very interesting song.
It's really not. I'm so glad we chose not to make this our opener.
And the vocals were admittedly my idea because I was still kind of clinging on to this weird idea that we could do this. It's kind of the remnants of this Pink Floyd idea where we wanted to not just like make just ambient music. We were going to have some like kind of higher concept stuff in there. And this and Urban Night are remnants of that. Yeah, this is not necessarily the best song.
All right, so the next song is Fever Dream, which I just have one word for it. It's filler. I think we made this song in like 15 minutes.
It was
It was like, yeah, not very long. And the only reason for it is because the way we were structuring the album, we had Reflections and Urban Nights right by each other, and we were like, oh, that doesn't seem right. So we're gonna put a song in there, and we
yeah
just didn't.
because we didn't want the two vocal songs to be touching.
Yeah, it's
Like
the
that would I
stupidest
swear that
thing.
was the reason.
No, that's exactly the reason. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
And what's funny about it is at this stage in the album, before we made it, that very day, we had this joke where we realized all of the song titles on this album were 3 syllables. And it just infuriated both of us because we had done this completely subconsciously. And we had Neon Cruise, Afterglow, Paper Squares,
Squares.
A Lates. You get the point.
And I think we had this, like, we knew that was happening, and then we made the title for Fever Dream, and then we realized that was also three
Yeah,
syllables, and I remember we were so mad.
I remember I was sitting down and I just said fever dream. And we both just looked at each other completely pissed off because we realized exactly what we had done.
It's really funny now in hindsight
Yeah.
how mad we got about that.
Yeah, but no, this track is filler and not great.
No, not really. But I will say the next song, Urban Nights, is probably my favorite on this album.
Okay.
I mean, either that or the end of. I can never really decide.
Urban Nights, though, this song has, yeah, this kind of similar story to Reflections, where it's like it was made in that same time period and we were still trying to figure out this whole vocal gimmick. This one was done by me, notably. While I still find the vocal performances cringy, I do like a lot of the ideas we had here with like the weird gong sound effect that leads into the
Yeah,
vocals.
yeah. I think yeah, we had a way better time recording this, and the execution was a lot better.
Yeah, we had to record me saying the end of because we wanted it to sound like I was cut off.
Yeah, but I think you said words after that. I think you said
Yeah.
Yoda or something.
I think I said the end of Yoda because we had a big Yoda poster in my room my bedroom, which we recorded most of the album in.
Um, and I think I don't even know where it's at, but I know we put Yoda somewhere else in the song. I don't even hear it, but I know we did.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and we like buried that somewhere in the mix.
Which
So
I
if
just think is funny because we just didn't get rid of it. We're just like, let's put Yoda somewhere
yeah,
else.
this song I do really like the sound of. It's I think where the Pink Floyd kind of space rock stuff shines through the most and is at its most interesting because this is like just a straight up 70s prog song.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I do really like it, the sound of this and the structure and kind of like the weird arpeggiated synths that just like explode kind of. I don't know how to
Mm.
explain it, but
Yeah, I mean it's got kind of goofy ideas, but it is a point where we were really finding our focus.
yeah, which was like at the end of the album, which, I guess fair enough. I think that was the last song we recorded for the album. I mean, aside from
Aside from, yeah,
Fever Dream,
Fever
but
Dream. And well, I guess now we're beginning with the end of the album. Well, we're ending with the beginning and the end of the album at once, which is the end of this being, stupidly enough, the first song we made,
yeah,
our first single, and the last
the
song on
last
the
song
album.
on the album, yeah. I don't know. I honestly, it's like the first like half the song where it's just like that really chill drone is like I really like that part. It's like really calming, and then it like halfway through it's kind of messes up, and there's just like these annoying ass like bum 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 bum. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just kind of I don't like that part because it just kind of interrupts like the real like kind of like the fog siren to a late spring, but like that was on purpose. I thought
Yeah.
that was funny. We thought that was funny. This now I just think it's annoying.
I really do love the just harsh droning of this song. Like it is really menacing to listen to.
Yeah.
And yeah, those parts they're really goofy sounding. I have to agree with you wholly there.
Yeah. I don't know. We thought like adding a guitar that just ascends
Yeah.
would be cool, but
But I really, yeah, I do think this track, despite being the first track, as the last song on the album, is like an interesting prediction of where we were headed.
Yeah.
with this much darker, dirtier sound.
I think it's kind of interesting that we kind of like circled back to that in Urban Nights. Like I know Urban Nights is kind of like all sparkly, but at the same time, like in the middle of all that song, it's like it's pretty deep, which I think is funny. Deeper tracks at the end of the album. I know, didn't you structure it like in a weird way like that, or want to structure? Yeah, go
That
ahead.
that was kind of our structural concept, or at least mine, that I wanted the album to be this like kind of wave structure was the way I thought of it. Just like increase it going up in this kind of wave of these lighter songs and then crashing down and rolling back into these darker songs. And you kind of get some of that, you kind of don't. Sometimes it just sounds really jarring, but it's it was an interesting kind of ambitious idea for a first album.
Kind of was the beginning of like how we would make our next two albums. I mean, I'm gonna go back to the like field recording and making like atmospheres where you're in and you're not just listening to music with like a late spring, and just how different kind of every song sounds and how kind of differently we produced this album in the various ways we did.
You know, for what it is, I kind of enjoy it. I think it's an interesting first album, if also like head and shoulders our worst in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. But
It'll-
yeah, I don't. It's honestly like if we did this a year ago, I would have talked poorly, more poorly about the album. But now that it's over 2 years old, like what the heck?
yeah,
I don't know. I kind of like it.
I kind of look back on it with this kind of like really charming, with this kind of like charmed, like, oh, I the me who made that and the me now are very different, and but I still appreciate that I made it and that it was like this step towards making better music. A lot of the track production is not as interesting as it gets later. Like there's shades of that, but it's just, I know there's not a lot to talk about in terms of like interesting production details. It was just kind of, we just sat in our room, in like your bedroom or my bedroom, and we
Yeah.
just plowed through it.
Yeah, that was the funny thing about this is there were times where we would hang out and we'd just work on a song for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss those days.
Yeah. Now we've got busy schedules, jobs
In college
and college. Yeah.
and other stuff. Being
But
an adult is hard.
yeah, that's our reflection on this. Thank you for listening.
And join us next Sunday for us reviewing Glacier Flower 20.
Glacier Flower 20 indeed. And we will definitely have more production notes and stuff like that for you. But yeah. Bam.